So I was on the phone and a man wearing an orange hard hat, dressed in like construction type clothes, walked in carrying a package, and I assumed he was just delivering it. And so usually when people are delivering something, they just kind of crack the door open and slide it in and keep moving. And he like walked in with it, which is kind of weird. And I was like, you can just set it down, thanks. And he just kept coming forward. And he pointed to it and was like, I have directions, which was a weird thing to say. And I'm like, if it's for the residents upstairs, just leave it. I'll take it to their mailroom. And then he just kept coming forward. And I was on the phone with my dad. And I was like, okay, Dad, I gotta let you go. Something's really weird with this guy. I kind of like mumbled it under my breath. I was like, something's really weird with this guy. I'm actually gonna put it down for a second. So I put my phone on speaker and set it down on the desk, already thinking like this is weird. Like there was just a weird vibe going on because that's not normal. And then the second I did that, he jumped around the desk and pulled out a knife he had a long sleeved shirt that was open and then like a t-shirt under it. And when he opened that shirt, he had a knife in there, and he came around behind me and put the knife like up against my ribs and then grabbed my shoulder and just said, you're not going to scream and you're going to lock the door. And I was kind of like in a daze. Like I said, it kind of felt like you were walking through like ice cubes or something. You're just like, and I couldn't find the key. I was really flustered, and then I finally found the key, and I tried to like pretend trip onto a panic button, and he kind of caught wind of what I was doing, I guess, because he grabbed my shoulder back and was like, "Don't try any of that funny stuff." So I made it to the door and reluctantly locked it, and then he said, "Okay, give me the money," and I just laughed. I just instinctually laughed. I'm like, what money? Everyone pays in credit cards. And then he's like, okay, well then go to the back room and we'll figure it out there. And I was like, we don't even have a back room, but we do have a laundry, which is luckily really close to the front door. And so he pushed me into that door, and that's when he made his true intentions pretty clear, that he had wanted to rape me. And he pushed me down and started that, and then I started struggling, and I tried to grab the knife, and for like a split second, I was on the ground, and I did grab it for a split second. He grabbed it right back, and I was kind of like kicking my leg, and he dropped it for a second again, and he grabbed it right back. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of came to the conclusion that, like, at first I was trying to just get it over with. Like, just do what he says so he leaves. Just do what he says so he leaves, because I was pretty freaked out by it. The knife was like, it was like 8 inches. It was, and it looked like the kind you cut a turkey with. So that was really freaky. I feel like if the knife wasn't there, it would have been a totally different story, because I wasn't really afraid of him. He's really slender, and I don't know, I might outweigh him, who knows. But I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of his knife and his volatile demeanor. How it was like 1 minute he was quiet and asking for directions for some package delivery, and then the next minute he was just like fast and violent, and then it just felt really volatile, and I couldn't get a good read on what to expect. And so I kind of flip-flopped in my mind, like, should I just comply and get it over with, or just fight him? And then I came to this conclusion where it was like, if I do nothing, something terrible is going to happen. And if I do something terrible might happen, but it might not. So those odds seemed better. So then I started kind of like thrashing around, and he had set the knife down because he was, I'm just going to kind of gloss over the details, working on his other goal, I'll say. So I put my foot on it, and my hand was on the ground, and that's when I got this plan, and I was like, kick it to your hand and then defend yourself, right? And I thought it through for 1 or 2 times. I'm like, okay, that's the plan. Kick, defend, kick, defend. Okay, do it. Let's go. And I was like going to act. I know I was there. I went there in my mind, and that's when my coworker walked in. My coworker and a client actually both walked in at the same time and opened the door, and they were like, "What's going on?" They kind of shouted that, and he just jumped up and grabbed the knife again, pushed me away, and grabbed it again, and took off out the door. And then he had left a bag that was right beside where I was, in the doorway of the laundry area. We had called 911, and they were like, "Did he leave any identifying information?" And my coworker was like, "There's a bag." So we opened it up to see if there was, ID or something. And that's when we saw that it was full of knives. I only glanced in the first pouch, and I just briefly counted 6 different ones, but there were more pouches that the officers were going through, and so I don't even know what else was encountered or what was discovered. But they were very weird and random knives. Not like, if you think of somebody stabbing someone, you think of like a switchblade. Like, you don't think of like steak knives, and it was like random kitchen ones, but some of them looked rusty, like out of a dumpster maybe. So it was weird. It was weird, and it was really scary because he had the bag right beside where I was. And some of the things he said to me were quite vulgar and quite descriptive on what he was going to do. And I wasn't 100% sure he was serious when he was saying, he wanted to cut me and stuff like that, and in very descriptive ways. And I wasn't quite sure how serious he was about it, but when I saw that bag, that's when I realized how much of a close call I had. And as odd as it sounds, I'm actually kind of grateful that it was me as opposed to an employee, because I don't know if I could deal with the guilt if it happened to anyone else. And also, I'm larger than everyone else. I'm kind of tall for a woman, and if someone was more petite, I don't know that they would have fared as well. I don't know if they would have been able to resist him long enough for someone else to come in. So I think this was the better case scenario for how it could have played out, but it's pretty scary.